Hey, what's up everybody? I'd like to welcome you to another Juce tutorial. And in this tutorial, we're going to talk a little bit about graphics class and also parent and child components. These are essential elements that you need to create any sort of graphical interface in the Juce framework. This is going to be based roughly on the parent and child component tutorial that you can find on the Juce website, and I would recommend that you reference that to find out more information. So we're just going to jump into things here, and the first thing I'm going to show you is the graphics class reference. So this is off of the Juce website in the API, and so this is loaded with different functions for drawing all kinds of different shapes, text to the screen, so on and so forth. And so most of the functions that I'm going to be calling today are going to come from this page. Okay, so as always, we're going to start off with a new project. Okay, and what we're building is a GUI application. So just going to click on this, and I'll just call this GUI tutorial 1. We'll just put this in the right folder. Oops. Okay, so that's created our project. And as before, in our last tutorial where we talked about the main component, starting a GUI application already sets up your main.cpp, which is where your main Juce functionality resides, and then your main components, which are where you will build your UI using a hierarchy of parent and child component classes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this main file, just put it at the top. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create, what we're going to do now is we're going to build just a little house, just drawing a little house graphic just to demonstrate the way that the parent and child component classes kind of function and how to get different elements visible within your UI. So first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a child component, and we're going to do that just by clicking in this little plus box here. So we just click in there, and then we click add new component class, split between a CPP and a header. Okay, so just click that. Here we enter our component. What we'll call this is, first thing we'll build is the wall component for the house, so we'll just build the wall. Okay, so component. Make sure that you capitalize it because you are creating a class. And then this screen comes up, and we're just saving that in our source folder with the rest of our C++ files. When it comes up, it tends to put it in this hierarchy that's outside of the source folder. For me, I just like to stick these in the source folder. I'm not sure if that's kind of standard or not, but that's the way that I like to do it. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and open this up in Xcode. So here we are in Xcode now. And then if we just go to our source files, there are our CPP and header files. So now what we need to do is we need to connect our wall component into our main component window. Okay, so the way that we do that is we just go into our main component header file, and we just need to include the wall component. Okay, so we'll just include wall component header file. Then what we need to do is we need to create a wall component object. Okay. Now before we go and make it visible, we need to go into the wall component itself. So this is now a child component of the main component. So the main component is the parent component, and then the wall component is part of the main component. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and just draw a wall of a simple little house to the screen. So if we just look in the header file briefly, you can see that the functions that we're able to call are the same as what we had in the main component that we discussed in the last tutorial. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just go in here, just delete this default text. Okay, and then we're just gonna draw a rectangle that's gonna basically serve as the wall of our house. Okay, so we're in the graphics class. Once again, all of these functions that I'm going to be calling are from the graphics class that you can reference in the API. So first thing that we're going to do is we can create a rectangle object. Okay. Then we're just going to call that rectangle. And so what this is actually another class called rectangle. And then if we just go into, if I went out of here to the API here briefly, just to show you what I mean. So rectangle is actually another class here. So if we just go in here to rectangle, so this basically, like it says, manages a rectangle, allows geometric operations to be performed on it. And then here are a list of all of our different public functions. Okay. So I'm just going to give this the dimensions. I'm just going to put it 0, 0 for the moment. I'm going to make it 200 pixels long, 120 pixels high. And did I do that right? Or is it supposed to be like this? Okay, great. Okay, so now we're going to set the color now with G. So we're looking at the arguments from Paint. We got the graphics G object here. So we're going to do g.setColor. Sorry, I'm going to go back here real quick. What we're going to do is we're going to actually make it like a brick effect. This is something I went through a little bit earlier. So we got this function here, g.fill checkerboard. Okay, we can see the arguments that we need to put in here. So we need our rectangle name, which is wall here. So we'll just call wall. Okay. Now this is a checkerboard, so this is going to be how long our first color is, how long our first color is and how high our first color is. So here I'm just going to put that the brick, so to speak, is going to be 20 pixels long. It's going to be 10 pixels high. Okay. And then the color of the brick is going to be colors. And then we got sandy brown for one color. Then we got colors. We'll put saddle brown for the other color. Okay. And if you're wondering how did I get this g.fill checkerboard, where did I find rectangle? Okay, this is all from the API. Okay, so this fill checkerboard would be within the graphics class. Documentation is one of the functions that you can call. If you look within colors, if I command click in there like I just did, you can see all the colors that are available to you there. Okay, so just so we aren't questioning, well, where is he getting these functions from? Okay. Then if we do g.drawRect, okay, then I'm just gonna autocomplete down to the rectangle object here. Then if I do wall, okay. Now, what I need to do is I need to make this visible in my main component. Okay, so if I go back to the main component, the way that we do this the way that we make the component visible to the parent is with the function called add and make visible. Okay. And then what we're making visible is our wall. Okay, so if we look here at our wall component, we called it wall. And here, I'm making that visible. Okay. So now, we have to tell it, well, where do we want it to draw on the screen? Okay. So we do that in the resized function, and we use that using a function called wall.setBounds. Okay. And now our wall is going to be drawn relative to its parent component, which is the main component. Okay, main component is the parent, and then the child component is the wall. And at the moment, we have the wall set to draw in relation to where our main component window is. Okay, so what we're going to say here is using an argument of get local bounds. Get local bounds means look at the size, look at the size of our window, and set our coordinate system relative to the parent, to this component that we're inside now, which is the main component, the main content component. Okay, if you have questions about that, just drop a comment below and let me know. Okay, so now we have, if we go back to our wall component, we look and we can see that we have the wall drawn at the moment at 0, 0 with 200 pixel width, 120 pixel height. Okay, so hopefully I did all of this right, and we should be able, when I compile it, to see this wall at 0, 0. Okay. So just compiling, still compiling. Okay. Okay, and there we are. Okay. So the wall component has been drawn at 0, 0. And it's 200 pixels long, 120 pixels high. It's at 0, 0. Okay, so I don't really like my background color here, so I'm going to change this to make this a sky color. Okay, so that's happening in our main component window. So that's our main window there. So we're going to do, I'm sorry, I'm not in the constructor. I want to be in Paint. So we're going to do G.fill all. Okay. We want this to be a color, so we got colors. We'll try sky blue there. Okay. Just compile that quickly. Okay. And here we are. We're sky blue. Okay. Now, one important thing that I want to mention here is, as I've said before, now that I've got some graphics on the screen, I can kind of hopefully relate this to you a little bit easier. So your UI is set into a hierarchy of parent and child components. So your parent component of everything would be the main component. And then you'd have a set normally of child components, and then those child components may be parents of other components. Like, for example, let's say that I wanted to make a door in this wall, then the door might be a child of the wall component. Okay, now what's important to remember here is that when you set a component as the child of another parent, then the coordinate system is relative to whatever its parent location is. Okay, so let's just change this wall component here so it's not the same So it's not the same as our sky, our main component window. And so I can explain a little bit better what I mean. Okay, so I'm going to change this just to 200. Let's just say 200, 200, right? Okay. Okay, so now we're at 200, 200. If I were to draw a door, I'm not going to at this moment, but if I were to, or draw like a window and make that the child component of the wall, then the location that I would set it would be relative to this corner here, okay, where I've drawn the beginning of the wall, okay, and not to its parent, which is the sky, the main component window. Okay, so when you have a parent and then that has children, the children are drawn relative to their parents, not to the overall coordinate system of the main window. Okay, so I hope that explains it to you a little bit better. So, okay, so we're going to just draw a few more components here, just to give you an idea of the workflow. So now when you're adding components to your project, you want to add those using the juicer, okay? Don't add them using Xcode, because the juicer will overwrite over your Xcode code that you've put in if you put it in Xcode. So what we're going to do is just click again in this little plus window, and then we're going to do add new component class split between CPP and header. And let's just draw some grass. Okay, so I'll just call this grass component. Once again, make sure that you capitalize because it's the name of a class. Okay, we're going to save those in our source files. As I did before, I'm just going to put those in the source folder. And now I'm going to save and open it up in Xcode. Okay, and now we have our grass component. Okay, so all of these components I'm going to add are going to be children of the main component. Okay, so to keep things as simple as possible and not confuse anybody. Okay, so everything's going to be, in this example, is going to be relative to the main component coordinate system. So now we need to add the grass component to the main component. So we just do include grass component .h, and now we're going to create a grass object. Okay. And now we can do add and make visible the grass. Okay. And then we can do grass set bounds. Okay. Our bounds are relative to our main component. So once again, we're just going to do get local bounds for all of these examples. Oh, not got, get local bounds. Boom, there we go. Okay, but we haven't drawn the grass yet. Okay, so that's what we're going to do at this time. Okay, so just take out this default text here. Okay. So now we're going to do, we're going to set the color. Okay. I may need to refer to my to the API to remember how to do this. Okay, so we're going to set the colors, the color to green. Okay, is it draw line? There we go. Okay, let's see here. So we've got a couple different options here. So we've got one that's that is a starting point, an ending point, and a line thickness. Sounds like what I need. Okay, so we'll just draw this. Let's say, so the house that we drew, so the wall that we drew was set at 200, 200. I set it 120 pixels high. Okay, so that would put the height at 320. So let's just put this at 10 in and 320. Oh, actually we could do yeah, so we'll do 325 for the y coordinate, and then the end will be get width minus 10, okay, and then 325 again, and then our line thickness, let's just make it, I don't know, 10 pixels. Okay, now let's see if that drew to the screen correctly. Hey, there you go. And there we have our line, 10 pixels in, 325 pixels down. And there we go. Okay, so let's do another one. So just X out of Xcode. Now we're going to create another component. Just click here in the plus. We're going to do add new component class, split between CPP and header. Okay, so let's do roof component. Okay, so we're going to do a little roof. Okay, as we've done before, I'm just going to add these to my source folder. Now I'm going to go and open these back up in Xcode. Here we are in Xcode. There's our roof component. Cool. So let's just draw the roof here. Okay, this is going to be a little bit different. Okay, so I'm hoping that you can follow along with me. Okay, if we go into our API, then if I go down to the graphics class, and if I do a little search function and I type triangle, you'll see there's nothing that's called triangle, so we're going to have to draw that ourselves. Okay, and the way that we're going to do that is by using another class that's going to be called path. Okay, so if I click into path, okay, a sequence of lines and curves that may either form a closed shape or be open-ended. Okay, sounds like exactly what we need. So if I click on more, it gives us a little example here of how to draw one. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and go back and forth between our API and our project and hopefully get something going here. Okay, so let's do g.setColor. Let's make the roof red. Okay, so now if we look at our API, we need to create a path. Okay, path object. So we call it path roof. Roof is probably a bad name because that's what I've named the object. So let's just call this path P. Okay. Now if we go, now we need to pick a starting point for our path. Okay. Start new subpath. So P start new subpath. Okay, so let's think about where we want this to be in relation to our house. Okay, so if I just compile again quickly. Oh, my bad. Just comment this out for a minute. Compile. Okay, so the roof of so we started the wall at 200, 200. Okay, So we just need to go just a little bit less than that to begin our our roof. Okay, so I'm just going to start right here where my mouse is. Okay, so like 10 pixels above the wall. Okay, so we just uncomment this out again. And okay, so our starting point, our starting X point is going to be the same as the wall, which is 200. Then we were at the wall starts at 200, so let's just start maybe 10 pixels above that. So we'll call that 190. Okay. So now we've gone to our first point, and now we need to draw a line to our next point. Okay. So we're going to do P dot line 2. Okay. So so the width of the wall is 200. So if the width of the wall is 200, then we need the line to go to 400. Okay, same y coordinate. Okay. Now if I just compile quickly again, of course you won't see anything because I haven't drawn the this path to the screen yet. But just to give you an idea of what's going on, okay, so we've set our first point here 10 pixels above the wall, and now we've drawn a line just to the other side. Okay, and then for our third point, we're just going to go halfway and maybe go about 50 pixels up to form our little triangle above the roof. Okay, so we'll do one more line too. Okay, so our X is going to be 300 because it's halfway between 200 and 400. And then we'll make the Y 50 less than the bottom of the roof, so that will be 140. Okay. Then let's just refer back to the API just to find out what we do next. And now we can just close the shape with close subpath. Okay, so we're just going to do that. P.close subpath. Okay, but we're not done yet. Okay, because we haven't actually drawn it to the screen. Okay, so we could use G dot, I believe it's stroke path. Yeah. So stroke path is what actually draws it to the screen. Okay, and now it's saying, okay, which path are we referring to? And of course, we're referring to the path object that we created, which is P. Okay. Now we got this other thing that we've run into, path stroke type. Okay, well that's a class, so let's just have a look back in our API. Okay, and there we got path stroke type. So let's just see what sort of arguments that we take. Okay, so you have a couple different options here, and we can just do one that says path stroke type and then just give a thickness. So I think that's what we'll do for simplicity's sake. So we got path stroke type, and there's our autocomplete there to save us. Stroke thickness, let's just say 15 for our, okay, so now let's go back to our main component. So our parent component is the main component once again. Okay, and now we need to include our new roof into our main component. So we'll just go ahead and include the header file in there. Roof component header. We need to create a roof object. Okay. Now we need to go into our CPP file. We need to add it to our constructor for the main content component. Okay. And now we need to define which coordinate system that we're going to go by for this object, and we're going to go by the coordinate system that we've already set in the main component of 600, 400. Okay, so we got roof.setBounds, get local bounds. Okay, so let's just see if that's drawn that to the screen. I feel like I've missed something. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay, cool. Awesome. And I've drawn it a little bit larger than what oh, that's because of the thickness of the line. Okay, and also let's have a look and see if we can fill in this roof here. So if we just go back to the roof, so let's just make this 2. Let's see if that fixes it. Okay. There we go. So now our roof is relative to our wall. Okay, and then let's just see, I believe it's fill path. Okay, and we're going to fill it with red, so colors, red. Okay, and that should hopefully, oh no, what did I do? Okay, what did I do? G.fill path. Oh, I just need to put the path P in here. Okay, and it'll fill it with whatever the color is set to, which is red, hopefully. Okay, there we go. Cool. So now we have a roof. Okay, so now let's do a little bit of text. Okay, should we do text or shall we do a sun? Let's do a sun first. Okay, so once again, we're back in the juicer. So once again, I'm just going to remind you, any CPP files, header files that you add to your source code, make sure that you add it within the framework itself. Okay, so we do that by clicking the plus, add new component class. We're going to call this sun component. Create files. We're going to put it in the source folder. And there is our sun component, and we're just going to set those within our source folder. Okay, once we've done that, then we just open it back up in Xcode, and there we are. Okay, don't remember exactly how to do this, so I might have to go back to the API. So is it g.ellipse, draw ellipse. Okay, so the ellipse, the X and Y coordinates are actually at the top left. So if you would imagine a circle, there was actually like kind of a rectangle around the circle. So it refers to the top left corner of that kind of imaginary rectangle that's around the circle that you're going to be drawing. Okay, so let's go. So we want this to be kind of at the top right. So let's just say 400, and then go down maybe 50. And then we'll make this, let's just make it 50 by 50. And then line thickness, we'll just say 10. 0. Okay. Now we just need to make it yellow. So G, so we just want to set the color, colors, yellow. Okay. So now we've drawn our basic ellipse. we just need to add it now to the parent component, which is the main component. Okay, so we'll go back, include our Sun component header file. Okay, create a Sun object. Now we go back into the main component CPP file. We need to make it visible. The Sun object. Then once again, we're setting it relative to the coordinate system of its parent this time around. So we want sun.setBounds, get local bounds. Okay, and so just to review what that means that when I say, when I look at the sun, when I look at the ellipse that I've created, and I say, okay, I want it at 400, comma 50, that the 400, comma 50 is relative to the main component window. Okay, so that's what that means when I'm saying get local bounds. Is saying set this component relative to its parent component. Okay, so let's just go ahead and compile that, see how we're looking. And there we are, we have a sun. Okay, great. Okay, so let's just do one more and then we'll stop for the day. So let's just draw some text to the screen. So once again, I'm just closing out. Don't create new CPP and header files in Xcode. Do it in the Juicer. Okay, so I'm just going to hit the plus sign here, add new component class, and I'll just call this text component. Okay, create files. They're in the sort. Oh, interesting. Went into the main source file this time. Okay, cool. So now we just open back up in Xcode again. Okay, so here's our text component. Okay, so we're just going to go into the paint function where we put all of our UI stuff. Just delete this. Okay, so for this for the text component, what we're going to do is we're going to basically just put some text on the screen. Okay, and there are a couple different ways to do that. One way to do it is just to put g.drawText, and then that'll just basically put in default text the whatever string that you'd like to put. But I'm going to show you a little bit more of a customizable way. Hope to mess this up. So if we go back to our API, and then if we look for the font class, so here in font, okay, so we have a whole bunch of different functions for actually customizing the type of font that we want to write to the screen. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to create a new font object. Okay, then what we can do, we'll choose this option here. Okay, so typeface name, okay, is the actual name of the font that you would like to type it in. Okay, so if you don't know what fonts that you have, if you're on Mac, you can just look at your font book. Okay, I've just opened the font book application now. Okay, and this gives you a list of your fonts. I'll just do that again over here in the window you can see. So there it is, font book. That's an application in your Mac. Just open it up, and here are all of the fonts that you have available to you. Okay, and so this is what we need to actually put into our arguments. Okay, so let's just try this one, Cooper Standard, Cooper STD. Okay, so that's the first argument that we need, and we need those in italics. So Cooper, it's got to be exactly the same, so capital S. Okay. Typeface style, I think it'll be regular. Okay, so let me just make sure that's an option that's available to me here. So if I just click on this arrow, oh, we got black. Okay, we got black and we got black italic. Let's just show off for a second here and try black italic. Black italic. Okay, that's written exactly the same way. Then we got our font height. Let's just say 50 for our font height. Okay, so now we need to set the font. Okay, because if we just went and draw text to the screen, it doesn't know that we've created another font that we want it to draw. Okay, so we need to do a function called g.setFont. Okay, and I haven't named my font object. I'll just call it the font. Okay, the font. Okay, so now it's set the font now. Okay, so now let's try g.draw text. Okay, so here we have a number of arguments here. So we've got the actual string that we want to draw. So let's just say the audio programmer. Okay, and then let's just draw it 10 at 10, 10. The width, let's just, we got to make sure that we make it big enough to fit it on the screen. So let's just do like a width of like 400 just to make sure it draws right. The height, we'll put it for 60 because the size of our font is 50. We'll just give it a little bit of room. Justification type is, I think we could put top left. Let's just try top left. There we go. Okay, so I felt like I went through that a little bit fast. So last argument was justification, so I just had like the justification object here, and then we have our different options here. So we can do center, I'll do top left. Okay, just to make sure that it fits on the screen. Okay, so now once again, we just need to add that to our parent component. So if we go back to our main component, to our header file, we just need to include that text component into our main component. There we go. Text component. I'll just call it text. Okay, so that's just creating our object. Then when we go into our CPP, we need to make it visible. Add and make visible. And then text. Then text dot set bounds. We'll do get local bounds once again because we're going relative to the main component size. Okay, so hopefully this goes to the screen, or I'll have to do this all again. Okay, cool. All right, so it's drawn to the screen. Okay, but our font size is a little bit too big for our window, and we can see that through because of these three dots. So that's just basically saying your rectangle isn't big enough for to draw the text the way that you want to draw it. So we'll just make this a little bit smaller. So if we go back into our text component here, let's just let's just try 20. See how that works for us. Great, and there it is. Okay, so so this is where I'm going to go ahead and end this tutorial. I hope you learned a little something. And for our next tutorial, we're finally going to get to a point where we're going to start drawing some sliders and knobs to the screen, customizing them, and taking a look into the look and feel class of Juce. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe, like, and see you next time.